Nerdcast assemble!
Stay dandy, baby.
The goofy cyborgs are taking control in another awesome episode of Deca-Dence. First and foremost, I just want to give you guys a warning. This is going to be a way quicker review than I usually do. I'm very short on time, but I really wanted to talk about this episode of Deca-Dence, and rather than just skip the review and not give you an episode, I at least wanted to give you guys something. So this is an episode which sort of elaborates a little bit more on all the crazy shit which happened in the last episode, and I think my favorite thing about the last episode was the reaction that people had to it. It's pretty 50-50. A lot of people seem to really love the twist of the fact that Deca-Dence is not actually this post-apocalyptic steampunk anime adventure, but it's actually something else entirely. It's sort of, one of my commenters called it reverse Avatar, and that's basically what's actually going on here, which I thought was really clever, where we have these cyborg alien robot things, which we actually learn in this episode are not actually aliens. They were something that was constructed on Earth that are a part of this massive corporate environment which is known as the Solar Quake. They're this massive company which basically has gained the rights to mankind. And saying that out loud is just hilarious. Basically, they've taken control of the planet and all of the inhabitants that are on it, and they've created this like amazing place where all of these cyborgs can play this game, interact with other humans in human avatar bodies, and they can just have a great time, as well as harnessing the power of the Godal's blood. That seems to be what's really important in this series. The actual cyborgs rely on this as well. So that is pretty much all elaborated on in this episode. That and the fact that Natsume is getting her formal training from Kaburagi, which is as exciting and awkward as you could possibly imagine. Which is also as an excuse just to see a lot more great animated moments and some funny moments from her character. But yeah, this episode sort of dived a little bit more into how the series works, how they fight back against the Godal, and more about the actual organization Solid Quake. So like I said, at first I thought that they were alien creatures. Apparently mankind at one point, when they were finally starting to basically go extinct, created these cyborgs to clean everything up and take care of them, a la Wall-E. And then eventually there were just more of them than there were of humans, and they created their very own organization and sort of took over the entire planet, with humans being none the wiser. And that leads to the event that we currently have in the series, with the cyborgs sort of running the entire planet and running it sort of like a perfect corporate entity, which also explains why they're so robotic in the way that they do things, and then if you go against the organization, basically you end up getting scrapped. So it gives us a much better explanation on truly what's going on here, but I will say that if you're still not gelling with the fact that the two art styles between the human world and the cyborgs is so completely different, you still might not actually like what's going on here. I personally find it absolutely fascinating. It's a yin-yang kind of effect for me. I just love the ridiculous marriage of these two very distinctive art styles. But luckily, most of this episode is dedicated to things going on in the actual human world, with Kaburagi doing some training for Natsume and getting to learn how they actually fight back against these Godal, how those weird backpacks work, and why they actually have to use these specific weapons to draw the blood from their body. So apparently these Godal emit this sort of like weird barrier around their body, which allows everything around them to sort of like slowly float. And when they use these backpacks, they actually ride the waves of this energy. That's what sort of allows them to float when they actually go within these like bubble barriers. And this is what allows them to move real fast and maneuver and fight back against them. And they use these sort of like gun-like rods that like shoot into their body, and it extracts all of the blood, and they have to get really close in order to do this because they have to get like directly into their core. So they have to learn to maneuver really fast, dodge all of their crazy attacks, and of course get the blood out of their body, which is no easy task, especially for someone like Natsume, who, while the spirit is willing, the flesh is kind of weak, so to speak. She's not exactly the greatest person at taking these things down, but as the episode goes on, you get to see, we go through a big montage training sequence, and we get to see her getting more competent. We also get to learn that while she does have like a robot arm, it's not that great in terms of allowing her to battle. So later on in the episode, they meet a guy who gets her a brand new arm with a cool new weapon attachment to it, which is going to allow her to be a much more competent tanker. Speaking of metal arm, one of my commenters mentioned in my last review that the reason that she's considered a bug and that her chip can't be detected is that originally it was in her arm. Apparently that's not the case, and I thought that was a really good theory, but we learn in this episode that when she suffered that big attack when she was with her father, she went through some sort of like heart attack and had cardiac arrest, and it almost looked like she died at that moment. And apparently she did for just a few seconds, to the point where it triggered the system to make it seem as if she was truly dead. But when she came back, she was just normal again, but it didn't register with the system, so it recognizes her as someone who's dead and is not really all together. It's really strange, but it's a nice explanation overall. We also get to see that Pipe, the weird little Gadol-like sort of animal pet of Kaburagi, might be more important outside of just being a weird, goofy mascot kind of character. I have a feeling he's a little more important and might even be some sort of experiment which is being worked on by Solid Quake. They hint at that a little bit in this episode, but honestly, it's kind of hard to say. Really, though, like I said, this was more of an expositional dump kind of episode, and sort of there to just try to explain what's really going on in this series. And because I know the last one was very confusing for a lot of people, I even had to watch it a couple of times to get a firm understanding of it. But this one definitely broke things down just a little bit more, which I thought did a better job of, instead of just throwing you directly into the fire that was last week's episode. But I still stand by my original thoughts. I care way more about Deca-Dence thanks to this twist. Before, I was very lukewarm on it. I'm like, this is just a steampunk, a futuristic Attack on Titan with a giant robot city. Like, that's all it really was to me. Adding in this brand new cyborg element with a completely different art style has revitalized my love of what this series could potentially be, and I still can't wait to see more of where it's going to be headed. I still have a feeling that Kaburagi is probably going to rebel against Solid Quake and work with the humans to go up against them, or at least create some sort of peace treaty, because there's still a lot of mystery behind the Gadol themselves, like where they actually came from, why they were created. Was it a human thing? Are they aliens? Were they made by the cyborgs? Like, there's still so much mystery to the show, and I have a feeling with every episode they're going to slowly sort of expand on all of that. And it's really cool to see Natsume finally become a more competent soldier. So yeah, good stuff from this episode. What's the rundown on this episode of Deca-Dence? Like I said, aside from watching the show, my favorite thing was just seeing everyone's reaction to that second episode, because my jaw was on the floor while watching it. I was like, what the hell is going on here? I just didn't expect that many people were not going to enjoy watching it at that point. A lot of my commenters and a lot of people that I've talked to have said they're basically going to drop the series. They can't accept the fact that there's just a completely clashing art style, and I totally understand that. I can understand why it would be kind of weird and off-putting, but for me, I think it only enhanced the series and has made it even more intriguing, and I applaud the creators of the series for not only doing something like this because it's very brave, but also because it was unexpected. They showed no hint to anything like this in any of the previews for Deca-Dence, and that's what made it catch me off guard and get me more interested in it. It's not too often that an anime series can completely surprise me, especially because I'd say about 90% of anime is based on an existing property, like a manga or a comic book, and Deca-Dence is completely new. It's its very own thing, and for them to keep all of this stuff secret, I think was just a massive success in its first 2 episodes, and the third one has only made me fall in love with the series all the bit more. I have a feeling that this is going to be an underrated show of the season, and considering everyone's reaction to it, you're either going to love it or you're going to hate it, but I think this episode, again, showed the perfect marriage between these 2 distinctive art styles and showing where the show eventually could be headed, and I have a feeling it's going to be an emotional roller coaster with some really crazy moments. Production value-wise, too, you can't deny it's a pretty good-looking series with a very unique look to it. Every character is distinctive. The action scenes look really cool, and they're inventive, especially with the way that they explained everything with how the Gadol and the weird backpacks work in this episode. Riding the waves of energy of the Gadol. It's really exciting, and this is an episode that you should check out. So I'm giving this episode a 5 out of 5. I really liked it. That's just my personal thoughts. Yours may differ. It's time to sound off in the comment section below and tell me what you guys thought about the latest episode of Deca-Dence. Were you lukewarm about the last episode? Are you dropping off? Are you going to continue watching? What did you think about Natsume's training in this episode? The revelation behind the fact that she is a bug? And what do you think is going to happen in the future of Deca-Dence? Is a massive, big civil war going to happen between the humans and the cyborgs? Is there something else going on here? What are your theories and hopes and dreams for the future of this wacky anime series? So there it is, my friends. Thank you for watching this review. Please subscribe to the channel for more videos just like this one. Strap on your jetpack and hit that like button. Helps out these videos tremendously. I would also like to go ahead and thank all of my patrons who've been checking out my Patreon page. You guys have been making some awesome donations to that, and it's been giving me a lot of great feedback about how I can change my videos. Not to mention, if any of you guys make a donation, I'll review an anime series of your choice, and I would love to add your name to this list of amazing people who are continuing continuing to support this channel. So thank you guys so much for watching this review. I'll see you all next time, and as always, stay dandy, baby.